You'll be first up to bat.
Okay.
Put it in.
I can hit lead off, that's all right.
I guess Trevor's been down south again. Got a new coin.
Next week.
That's nice. That's nice.
Why is he doing that?
You see that? He's got his name on it and everything?
Yeah,
Is
it's
this a,
impressive, isn't it?
Wow.
Trevor, is this a get out of jail free card?
You want me to connect?
You can try, but we wouldn't recommend it.
Yeah.
It's two. Yeah,
Y'all
maybe
need
it's
to
two
get
tickets
one.
instead of one.
That's gonna hurt me tomorrow.
Yeah.
That comment's gonna hurt me.
Okay, well. Hey, Chris, you wanna go ahead and start the? It started. Oh,
Yeah.
well then, we're gonna get started. 6 o'clock. Now, all right. It's 6 o'clock, and I'll call this meeting to order. We got a quorum present. If you'll join me for the prayer. Lord, we thank you for this beautiful day outside, Lord, and we thank you for the recent rains, Lord, and we pray that you would bless us with more as you see fit, Lord, and pray that you would be with us tonight as we do the citizens' business, Lord, and pray that you would help us to keep the overall best for the city in mind as we make decisions, Lord. Thank you for your son, Jesus, and his willingness to die on the cross for our sins. In his name we pray, amen. All right, if you'll stand up and join me for the pledges. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state,
One and indivisible. And you get to the public mention of the paper, she wants to speak.
My screen does that.
Okay, that will take us to 4.0 council announcements. This is time for any council to make any announcements.
Just like to say thanks to the WHO organization for the fundraiser that was held this weekend. It's my understanding that quite a bit of money was actually raised for the families of the tragedy of those kids. Just a big shout out to them and the work that they do for the community.
Absolutely.
Anybody else? Okay, that will take us to 5.0 public comments. This is time that anybody can speak about any matters other than personal matters and matters under litigation for a length of time not to exceed 3 minutes. No council or board discussion or action may take place on a matter until such matter has been placed on an agenda and posted in accordance with the law. So I do have one person that has signed up to public speak. Ms. Kaufman?
No, she'll do
Oh.
it during, when we're doing the paper. Because you're wanting to talk about the publication, right? The paper publication?
Okay.
That's on the agenda.
All right. Good. So anybody else that wants to make a public comment? Okay, seeing none, we'll close the public comment section, move to 6.0, our consent agenda. 6.1, consider and act upon approving the minutes from the regular meeting on February 11th, 2025 as printed.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
Okay, got a motion by Mr. Mann,
Second.
second by Mr. Rector. All those in favor? Okay. That passes unanimously. That will move us to 7.0 presentations. Our auditor's running just a little late, so we're gonna skip to 7.2 if y'all are ready.
Hold on a second.
Okay.
Yeah, where did that screen go? There it is there. Not sure where it did. Let's see if it's there. Yeah.
Could be that one right there.
It's not pulling off of his.
Oh,
Can I throw it on a, you have a PC that I can throw it on a jump drive real quick or something? Too. Normally it's plug and go, but it's obviously a little, issue here.
Okay. Coughing or something. Got one electronic.
One by one.
Sorry, I thought we were gonna have to call an ambulance there for a minute, but I believe Councilman White's gonna survive. So, he could not stop coughing and he finally got it down.
Yeah, it's
Just trying to get it.
it's like going to, it's like,
Back
I
under
was
control,
treating this
so
like
he'll be
this,
in here
like a
shortly.
second behind. So this brought my other stuff somewhere right now. You see now, when it does that, it's like,
Where's your other screen at though?
it's somebody's broadcasting somewhere else. I mean, to get out of it. Yeah, I can't even get to anything now because what it does is when it does that, this is like the secondary screen and the other one's looking. Let's see.
There it is, it's screen mirroring right there.
Is it this one? See, it's
Yeah.
extending to that, which is this thing,
Okay.
which then should just,
Go to your display settings here.
it's showing on another screen.
this one's camera. Oh, I guess you can, yeah.
Okay, we're gonna give them a minute. We're
Thank
gonna-
you.
We're gonna skip to 7.3, presentation for Clyde, City of Clyde. Mr. Brown.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So this is why you wouldn't tell me what
That's
7.3 was.
All right. So,
It should be automatic.
recognize Mr. Brown for his meritorious service to the City of Clyde and the citizens as mayor, November 2017 to February 2025. Appreciate your service.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Appreciate what you're doing.
Thank you, council. Appreciate that. It's nice.
Oh, I don't know how to make this happen.
Well, I was gonna say,
Display.
hook it up to my Surface and see if it's his computer for something else. Cause that deal already worked.
Maybe if you have the USB-C on that, here, does he have a,
He is,
right there, USB-C?
I think.
Alright, we're going to continue and give them some more time to get their stuff going, hopefully. So now we'll move to 8.0 public hearings. 8.1 notice of public hearing on property located at being lots 18 and 19 Shallow Water Estates subdivision, Callahan County, Texas. Request is for a replat of lots 18 and 19 to one lot. The property is currently zoned as residential. Public hearing will be held at Clyde City Hall, 222 Oak Street, April 8, 2025 at 6 p.m. So, anybody like to speak on this final replat?
Interesting.
Where is it physically located?
Shallow Water Estates is on 604, right past the overpass. It's that new housing division. Plug it back into your, plug it back into your Apple now.
Would you want?
Plug that deal
Oh,
back in.
they're back in mine, yeah.
Okay. All right, any other comments on the replat? Okay, we'll close that public hearing and we'll move to 8.2, preliminary replat, notice of public hearing on property located at BN 213 and 215 Stevens Street, Callahan County, Texas. Request is for a replat of 213 and 215 Stevens Street. Property is currently zoned as residential. The public hearing will be held at Clyde City Hall, 222 Oak Street, April 8th, 2025 at 6 p.m. Any interested parties may appear at the public hearing to learn more about this case and make your opinions known. Anybody have any comments on this replat?
What's it being replatted to?
So it's currently 2 lots, and I think, remember, Mr. Davis said it was, the house was in the middle or something on
There's,
2.
there's a house over there that sits on two pieces of property. It's gotta be on one piece of property by itself. We're replatting it so that both houses are actually sitting on a separate piece of property.
So. Okay. Any other comments on that? Okay, we'll close that one and we'll move to 8.3. Notice of public hearing on property located at BN lots 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7 of the Lycan Addition, a subdivision of 10.7 acres out of section 66 BBB and C RR County, Callahan County, Texas. Request is for a replat of lots 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7 into one lot. This property is currently zoned as highway commercial. Public hearings, Clyde City Hall, 222 Oak Street, April 8, 6 o'clock. Any interested party may appear at the public hearing to learn more about this case. Make your opinions known.
This one is the old bottled water place that Phil Mintz owns now. That building actually, the property didn't develop out the way it was supposed to, the way it was divided up. The building actually sits on, it touches all 4 pieces of property. And there's a 20-foot easement that I guess was gonna be an alleyway at some point. So the best way to clean the whole thing up is to get the building on one piece of property and to take the easement away. So they've had it surveyed, and it's all clean like it should be now. So the easement will be gone, and it'll be one piece of property instead of several.
Anybody have any questions or opinions on that?
I have a question as to how that might impact the tax rolls. The tax revenue,
Yeah.
more specifically.
It's a good question. That might be something that the appraisal district could answer. I mean, it's putting it all in one big property. I mean, nothing else you'd think that'd make the value go up, having one big piece of property, but
You know, there's nothing else you can do with it. The building is already there. It's got to be cleaned up now.
anybody else? Okay, we will close 8.3, and I think we're gonna move back to 7.2, the presentation from Kemper Sports.
Appreciate that. Thank you for working through the technology glitch here. I'm gonna move around a little bit because I don't stand still well, because that's fine. But first, thank council and everybody for the opportunity for us to talk about youth sports in general. We were asked, talking to Roger, to bring, kind of share what we've been doing and just a little bit of a history of Kemper Sports, and then also a little bit of some information about the youth sports business to understand what we've got going on. So just a few slides, but we'll just kind of talk about what we've been doing and how we've been doing it there. Kemper Sports, we've been in business almost 50 years. If you look us up, you're going to see we manage a lot of golf. We've got about 200 properties between our youth sports business and our golf properties, all the way from 9-hole courses to some of the top resorts in the country like Bandon Dunes and the like. The fourth slide is the Kemper's Sports Venues. It was started about 4 years ago within our group to work with municipalities that are running youth sports facilities to help them make them more profitable, but also get them going and get them loaded up within communities. The last slide is we have a sports, they do live stuff. They do things like the McDonald's All-American Game, Maui Classic, things along that line. So we're doing a lot of different things throughout the country. As you can see, 45 years, 10,000 team members, got over 200 properties in our portfolio. We work with about 60 different municipal clients. Our very first client was City of Kemper. It was Vernon Hills, Illinois, still a customer today that we work with, so 45 years ago. The youth sports business is growing, and there are hundreds of these facilities very similar to Hanner Sports Complex throughout the country. These are ones that we work with at different levels. Some of them we just help facilitate or consult on some items. Some of them we actually run programming, and others we're full-on operators as well. Two that I'll call out, Mansfield Sports Complex is the old Big League Dreams. We've been challenged with the city of Mansfield to work that. We've actually brought some of our own money to it as well to be able to develop it and get it back online as well. But you can see throughout many different locations throughout the country. We were brought in late summer last year to work with the sports complex, to work with supplant some of the things that have been going on. Certainly it was about marketing, trying to get the word out, trying to work with organizations to try to help load it up. My goal all along is footsteps in the park and cover the turf. The more we do that, the better impact it is and things along that line. Spent a lot of time on marketing services. We developed a strategic plan, created a new website, also relaunched the social channels to get a lot of coverage as well. Worked on updating the sponsorship packages and looking for giving recommendations how to grow the business and to get additional teams. The interesting thing is when you open a facility like what you have, which is great because you've got the interscholastic use, certainly now we've got some more local community use, and then as we start to look at the economic impact of it, it's a roll. Right away, everybody wants footsteps in the parks. You have to do a lot of things in partnering with events right holders and bringing tournaments in. As we transition through the years, you start to develop some of your own content, so that way you're keeping more of the revenue and things along that line and driving more teams. What we're doing now is not uncommon. It's what we'll call grassroots marketing. We're bringing teams in, showing them what exists in the market and what a great facility that you have compared to other places that they've been. This weekend, rain outs everywhere else, we were able to get 30 teams in on Sunday alone, so it was a great use of the team and a great job by the Parks Department. Results, again, we've broadened awareness within the community or within the sports community. Again, developed the social I talked about, helped develop an own program. We did the Jingle Bell Slam, which was a success, even though it was a little questionable on the weather, but we got through the weekend as well. And again, trying to develop more of that as well. Obviously we've worked, we've got to help Brady on the guidance and some maintenance programs, worked with some different strategies and layering in multiple sports events when Scholastic's going on, also running some tournaments to get more footsteps in the park. Just shared some forms and documents to help the workflow as well. Job descriptions, because he's bringing a few new people on. And then we've been at a couple national events. We've had the Hanner Sports Complex flyer there at the ABCA show, which is a national baseball conference, showing the fact that it exists out there and trying to talk to some organizations to bring more events. Sports tour, any questions at that point? I just want to kind of run through that real quick without getting too much. Sports tourism by the numbers, this is, I think, important. I think everybody understands. You've been to tournament places, you understand what's going on out there. but it's a $40 billion industry. You know, and the economic impact is broaching $100 million nationwide. Actually larger than the NFL if you really think about it from a dollars and cents standpoint. And it's really about generating tax revenue and the economic impact that comes with that. We're going to share a little bit of that. Obviously, it breaks down to a lot of different areas: transportation, lodging, food and beverage, rec, all those different, whereas when people come to town, where they're spending their money, where they're spending their dollars. Again, the value, economic impact, which we'll cover some numbers on a little bit, generating revenue, job creation, community engagement, all of those type of things. Community development, working to do other events other than just the sports events. We do things like fireworks shows, we do things like arts in the park, food truck festivals, things like that. Other things to do to engage the community, to show what a great asset that you have. Again, it helps the infrastructure. I know there's some additional interest in growing out that way with some additional property development, and this is the catalyst for that. That's what these do. Obviously, they impact real estate and promote the destinations as well. And more importantly, like everything else, promotes active and healthy lifestyles, keep people moving, keep people outside. The impact, look, we looked at this a lot of different ways for Clyde, for the Hanover Sports Complex with the number of fields. And we felt that if we really attacked it the right way and got the right balance of events right holders, and they brought some of our own owned events in, that you start to generate, and you can start to generate numbers, and it is a multiplier. 30 teams, 50 teams times the amount of 12 players, all of a sudden you're at 650 players times 2 or 3 people per. You're dealing with 2,500 people a weekend, and it just adds on top of that. When you can lengthen those from 2-day events to 3-day events, which there's a few on the books for this summer, it helps grow the numbers as well. The projection on hotel room nights is about the people that can come into the market. Right now, there's some leakage, obviously, we know, going toward Abilene because of the mix here. So anything we do to help get those in and keep those in-house, they'll obviously eat the restaurants here and fill up the gas tanks here, help the bottom line. Direct economic impact, these are the type of numbers that you can look at for where the spends happen. If you take a look at it, these are the type of revenues that can be generated throughout. Again, number of day visits, and it's all based on what's an average spend of about $121 a person when you come to these events, and that's all the travel and everything that goes to that. You look at that bottom line times your tax rate, that's the revenue that's coming into the bottom line of the community. So, questions on that at all? No, it's a numbers game like everything else that you deal with. So, and these are true numbers. We believe these can be made here and can happen here and as you move forward. 25 is not going to be too far off of that when you start to look at some of the events that are coming in this summer that we've loaded in. Again, we're going to continue. We've been working with the community. We've been working with Hannah, working with Brady, and again, we want to continue to work on building that brand reputation. Certainly, be an extension of the sales arm to continue to work with the events right holders to figure out the right dollars and cents on that. I think we can broaden the sponsorship opportunity out there to drive more sponsorship as revenue. That's one of the few buckets. If you think about it, when you look at sports complexes, there's only about 5 or 6 buckets that you can get revenue out of. Certainly registration, gate, retail and or food and beverage. Sponsorship is a big one. And then the hotel, what we'll call hotel rebates that come back. And they all have to work in concert with one another. Right now, when we've been doing the marketing support, and we've been the extension of helping on some of the operational things, it's hard to do one without doing the other because they do really blend together and work together. And just figure out how to continue to be a better partner and to the city of Clyde and the Hanover Sports Complex to continue to help grow that and fill it up. Questions for me?
Can you be a little bit more specific on how you're driving the sponsorship aspect of this?
Yes. When it comes to sponsorship sales, there's a number of different ways. You did a great job of finding a naming rights. That's the first one that comes out of it. There's a number of different categories, right? When we look at sponsorship, we look at for regional, or we'll call local, we'll call regional and national opportunities. Certainly when you get into the national opportunities and when you look at a lot of different things, we come to town and say, hey, this ABC brand wants to put their name, get in here, it dilutes down. So we look at the local and the regional. The local particular, let's things like some of the services, we'll talk about whether it be orthodontists or that type of thing. always feel the impact when the out-of-town visitors come, but when you can layer in the local use, which is the local leagues, the local high school play, things like their visions, they're getting out there. Where there may be, I deal occasionally with some of them that it said, you know, I write 7 checks a year, one for each one of the leagues. Now, if you're at a complex or something like that, they're writing 1 check, they're getting broader appeal, and their brand's getting some things. In particular, some of those national brands, insurance in particular, they can tap into national marketing dollars, which allows them to expand their reach a little bit more. So we work to identify those as well within the community. There's always the one that comes out of the woods too, right? And the key is you got to get people out there when it's busy, so they can see it. You walk out there on a Tuesday, Tuesday afternoon. Although there was tennis going on out there today, there was a little practice, a little bit of energy. But if you can get them out there when there's things going on, and they see the footsteps that are going, and they feel that. There's no doubt now that the Little League, the youth baseball is playing over there. There's a number of probably business owners that are there that probably that are doing some sponsorship with that organization that can be converted to the park to say, hey, look, you're going to get broader impact as opposed to just the ball fields, things like that. Good question. Those sponsorships, I love sponsorships. It's really the lifeblood of it, right? Everything else has a cost of goods. This one we make a sign, but we also have the back end of that. We also have a responsibility to share some of these end of year numbers back up with them. They need to know what their investment's like. It's just not about taking the money, putting the sign up, and going away. The other thing I like sometimes sponsors talk about activation, right? If you can get a local bank, hopefully they can come out because 1,000 kids running around some nights. You can set up your kid savings account program, whatever it is, and maybe you convert one of those parents to a mortgage. Who knows, right? So it all works together that way. Great question. Anything else that? We appreciate the time. We really, again, Brady's been great to work with. Eager to learn. Happy to pour information to them. It's fun. I think we're blessed that we get to work in this industry to work with kids and programs, and it's nice to be able to work with communities that want to do that as well. So thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, Will. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, we're gonna keep on going backwards. 7.1 presentation by Cameron Gully, CPA.
I apologize, I am not professionally dressed. I completely forgot about y'all's board meeting today. I was on a tractor and skid steer when Connie texted me and said, we got a board meeting tonight. I said, oh my gosh. So all I had time to do was change jeans out of the ones that had grease and dirt all over them. And I hope my hands don't have grease on them. Anyway, I was cleaning up still after the tornado we had on Thursday, and it's been a mess. So I haven't even thought about work since Thursday, and I apologize for that. You've got your audit in front of you, as well as this letter too, which is just basically a sidebar, if you will, of just some other issues that I thought needed to be brought to your attention that really didn't rise to the level of being reportable conditions in the audit. I hope y'all have had a chance to look over the audit thoroughly, because I think it's imperative that you understand the condition that the city's in as of the end of this fiscal year. Last year, we pretty much alerted y'all that things were not in good shape, that things were going south very rapidly. And, they continued through this year, because when I reported last year, y'all were through about 75% of this fiscal year already. And so as we finished this year, you really hadn't had time to turn things around much, but you did do some things subsequent to the year end of September, particularly in the month of November, that have us been able to rectify some of the cash flow deficiencies that y'all were incurring, primarily the bridge loan that you got from First Financial Bank. They gave you the lifeline that you absolutely had to have in order to get through and get some of the bills paid and get you to the point of having some liquidity again. If we look in the financial statements first off, and then we'll eventually go to the footnotes. I'm sorry, I didn't even shave this morning. I look absolutely horrible. I have not been doing anything work-related as far as accounting-wise today. Let's look on page 13, because this is the balance sheet of your governmental funds, and this basically is the liquidity balance sheet. And there in the first column, you'll see the general fund, and then the second column is going to be your special revenue funds. First column, general fund had cash at the end of the year of $209,000. You know, that's well and good until you look in the liabilities, in the current liabilities. You can see accounts payable of $510,000. You can see accrued payroll liabilities of $39,000, and then accrued interest payable on the missed bond payment that was $354,000. And so your current liabilities exceed your current assets by over 3 to 1. $904,000 in current liabilities versus $209,000 in cash. You know, the other receivables there are going to be sales tax receivable and property tax receivables. The interfund receivables, the utility fund did keep the general fund afloat this year. And we can look on page 15 to see the effects of the utility fund administrative cost allocation that kept the general fund from being in a worse deficit position than it was. If you look at the third to last line item on page 15, you'll see the general fund had a deficit this year of $295,000, and that doesn't look so bad at first glance until you look at the revenue. Halfway up, or 3/4 of the way up the page, halfway down from the revenue subtotal, you can see administrative cost allocation of $1,737,000. Most of that money is monies that the utility fund gave the general fund to keep it in operational activities from not going in a deficit. And the reason, some of the things that really jump off the page as to the reasons why it needed that much money from the utility fund, you can look in Parks and Recreation, $703,000 in expenses. You know, police department, $1,007,000 in activities. General government, which is going to be the general fund, administration cost $867,000. Y'all did move some costs over because y'all began doing your own sanitation collection this year, and the positions that previously had been paid out of the utility fund were moved over into the general administration, and so that's in part of the reasons why the general government expenses went up to $867,000 this year. You know, code enforcement, $356, animal control, $805, streets, $820,000, and then y'all did pay $1.1 million in principal and interest on debt that y'all did service this year. That includes the accrued interest on the debt that hadn't been paid as of year end. And so the general fund really struggled. It would not have been able to sustain itself at all without the subsidy income from the utility fund. And then page 17, you'll see the utility fund balance sheet. It's called Statement of Net Position for the Proprietary Funds. And like the general fund, it has a whole lot more in liabilities than it does in assets, as far as current assets and current liabilities. You can see cash at the end of the year, which is the top line, $392,000. And then if you look at the current liabilities on it, it's got $3.1 million in current liabilities. In the liability section. You see accounts payable $228,000. Due to other funds, which is the interfund receivable payable between the general fund and it, that can kind of be eliminated. So you can pull that out of $3.1 million. You're still looking at $1.6 in accounts payable. Accrued interest payable on its missed bond payment as well, $463,000. And y'all did make those bond payments subsequent to year end, by the way. And so those delinquent bond payments have been made. And then the current portion of your debt, which is, again, the missed bond payments, $802,000, plus the bond payments that will be currently due in November. So that's like the general fund. It has current liabilities in excess of assets of well over 3 to 1, and you know, that's not sustainable, as y'all know. And you know, the bridge loan that y'all got from First Financial Bank is able to allow you to liquidate some of those unpaid accounts payable. But it's going to only get you, a short line of life, because, costs have got to be cut, extremely so. And if we look in the footnotes, we'll see kind of the narrative and the explanation as to where you are at relative to some of these issues. Page 35, footnote N, and then footnote O. Footnote N is the subsequent events, which kind of talks about what the bank did for y'all. The first item is that y'all did default again on the public property finance contract with performance services in November of 2024. Y'all paid only $397,000 of the payment that was due on that date of $1,017,000. And after that, shortly thereafter, in December, y'all did amend the contract and the loan repayment schedule with them that gave you a little bit of breathing room because they allowed you to miss the next payment that was due and have the next payment to come due to begin in August. And so they amortized the missed payment over the remaining payment terms, and so your future payments, while you've got a little bit of breathing room by the payment that they allowed you to miss, they just rolled that balance of missed payment into your future amortizable payments. And so your new payment amounts will become $544,000 instead of annually, which it was being due annually in November of every year. They split that payment up between semi-annual payments in November and again in August. And so, February and August. And so this new amortized amount, which is $544,000 semi-annually, is more than the annual payment that was of $1,017,000 because of them adding the missed payment to those future payments. The repayment term will not extend. The final maturity on that loan is still in 2041, but the payments due will be due semi-annually instead of annually. And so they did renegotiate that loan with y'all. And then in the third paragraph in footnote O, on page 35, the bank issued y'all a tax anticipation note of $1,272,000 that allowed y'all to get your accounts payable current. And so in all likelihood, that's a one-year term loan, and so it will balloon and be payable in November of 2025. But what it allowed you to do was to pay your defaulted bonded debt, and it allowed you to get current again on your accounts payable. So in November of 2025, what likely will happen is you will maybe be able to pay some principal on that loan and then renew that loan, and you may need to consider that you need to get more in addition to what they've already lent you to continue to cash flow your activities until you can get your costs back under control. But again, that's just a one-year term loan, and so it will be due in full in November of 2025. At that point in time, y'all need to have your ducks in a row already when the bank says, okay, the bank note is due next week. Well, you need to be already prepared to go to the bank and say, okay, yes, we know that, but here's what we would like to do. Or maybe do it before a week before, so that the bank is well aware of what your intentions are with the renewal, repayment, or extension and advancing more money to that line of credit, which is in essence what it is, even though it's on a one-year term. The bank has pretty much gone the extra mile with y'all to basically say, how much do you need? We will give it. And that's kind of what I told y'all last year that they would probably do, because I knew the bank would want you to succeed, because it affects them too. And then footnote O on page 36 is the same footnote, except that the information is different than what I put last year, and that is the substantial doubt about your ability to continue as a going concern as things currently exist. And I'm not going to beat a dead horse, because you already know the issues that we talked about last year. But, and you can see in the bullet points there, the defaults that were made on your loans and bonded indebtedness during the year, which we've already talked about previously, because they were identified in last year's audit. And then the other indicators are the two tables there on page 36 And then on page 37, and those are your liquidity ratios that basically show the current health of the city relative to your current assets, relative to your current liabilities. And we've already talked about that, looking at those balance sheets. Your modified current ratio, which is just cash, accounts receivable, and your other receivable, which is sales tax receivable, but it does not include your uncollected property taxes, because that's in some manners is not considered current. And so I did not include your unpaid property taxes collected receivable in that current asset number of $684,000. This is all cash for both general and utility funds. And so those current assets were $684,000 for the aggregated funds together. And then the aggregated accounts payable and accrued liabilities, and then the defaulted bond principal and interest were $1,455,000. And so your current ratio, excluding delinquent tax receivables, is 0.47, and that number should be over 1. Anything below 1 gives a red alarm that things are not going well. And so last year's current ratio was not as bad as it was this year. If you want to look at the paragraph on page 37, the second paragraph below the table, last year's ratio was 1.32. And so it went from 1.32 to 0.47, which just shows how fast things deteriorated. And then if we look at another modified actual current ratio on page 37, which the difference between these two is that it includes also the current portion of the debt that was not defaulted, that will be due within the next 12 months, is the current ratio that's on page 37. And so it shows the current ratio would be even less because of the debt that's due within 12 months of year end that's not included in that first current ratio calculation. So it's 0.25, and so it even looks worse than that. And last year's current ratio, including the current portion of long-term debt last year, was 0.42. And so you can see how rapidly things have deteriorated. You can see the third paragraph on page 37, the overall debt burden of the city's approximately annual debt burden is $2.9 million, which is over a third of your entire revenue stream for the year. And that's even higher than it was last year as far as your revenue stream relative to your current debt burden. Of course, it talks about also your drought restrictions that went into effect and the reductions that y'all have implemented relative to your water shortage conditions, and then what your plans were for this fiscal year that you're in now to increase your revenues and cash flows. And that is, you've increased your tax rate to 88 cents, which definitely will help significantly. $455,000 of additional revenue. Utility rates have been increased by $35 to generate approximately $700,000 of additional revenue. So that's $1.1 million right there. And then your expenditures have been cut by $1.5 million, a 16% reduction. And so those combinations, if realized, should generate an additional positive cash flow of about $2.7 million for this fiscal year. And of course, you're about halfway through, and so you're pretty much through your tax collection season, so you can pretty much tell if those plans are working. I've not looked at your numbers as of March 31st to know whether they're fully being realized or not, but those costs have got to be continued. Those cost-cutting measures have got to be continued. If you looked at payroll last year to this fiscal year that we're looking at now, your payroll costs went up exponentially, by about $400,000 from last year to this year. And y'all cut a lot of those positions during the year when you realized, hey, we can't afford to continue doing this. And so y'all began making those cuts at the end of this fiscal year that we're looking at right here. And so continue to do that, and it's probably going to take, Connie and I talked about this, it's probably going to take probably 3 to 4 years to get out of the financial distress that you're currently in. It's not going to be an overnight fix, and I think y'all know that. But, you are going the right direction. And so the fact that you realized it and tried to curb and stem the tide of deficits as quickly as you did, it should be accolades to y'all, that once y'all realized that things were going poorly, that y'all did take steps to rectify them. And part of the reasons why the things didn't materialize like you thought that they might is if you look on page 39, this was your budget for the general fund. And how do I put this kindly without sounding not kind? If you look on the revenue line for budget of charges for services, y'all had a revenue line item there of $2.6 million. That was an unrealizable amount. That should have never been in y'all's budget for this fiscal year. Because you look at the actual revenue earned was only $436,000. And most of those revenues were the pie in the sky revenues that y'all expected to earn initially from the park complex. And that was not going to happen overnight. You're now working to generate those types of revenues, but you should have never put that number in your budget because that was an unrealizable number. And when y'all put that in your budget and expected those numbers to be in your bank by the end of the fiscal year and they weren't, that's what got y'all so upside down so quickly. And so you see a budget revenue of $6.1 million and actual revenue of 5.4. And so that in large part is why the city's budget expenditures were $7.4 million. Fortunately, y'all began cutting costs and your actual expenditures were only 5.7. And so that really had a positive effect on the bottom line, or it would have been a whole lot worse than it was. So, and then I wanted to look at this. You know, that's pretty much your audit. You know, if you want to see the audit report itself, where it does kind of give the glaring issue of the condition on page 1 and 2, and the big glaring footnote disclosure in the auditor opinion is paragraph 4, which is the same as it was last year, the substantial doubt about your ability to continue as a going concern. And it makes reference to footnote O that we've already looked at. And again, this was the same disclosure in last year's audit as is in this year's audit. You know, you'll probably have some fairly deep discussions with your bondholders when they get this audit and they see it on the Municipal Advisory's Council's website. If they've not already done so, they're going to want to know, okay, we want to know some finite and some specific plans, what you're going to do to make sure your bondholders are paid. You know, a lot of your bonds are insured, but that doesn't mean that your insurer doesn't, at that point in time, still be owed money from y'all. So when y'all have insured bonds, which y'all do, the insurer makes your bond payment when you miss that bond payment, but then they become the owner of that bond, which it doesn't say that you're absolved from payment. You just don't owe it any longer to the bondholders, you owe it to the insurance company. And so that's what your former business manager didn't understand. He thought, well, we'll skip our bond payment and have the insurance company pay for it. Well, that didn't absolve you from making payments. And it not only didn't absolve you from making payment, it made your credit go to junk. And so that was a double-edged sword that really, really negatively impacted the city. And so, you know, bottom line is never, ever, ever miss a bond payment. You know, always make a bond payment because that has so many implications on your ability to borrow, your interest rates. You can see the interest rate on the loan you have with the First Financial Bank's over 9%, you know, because they consider it a risky loan. They know who y'all are and they know where to go to collect. But at the same point in time, you know, powers that be in Abilene said, you know, we can't issue this loan at any less than this because of the credit worthiness. So there's that. Compliance-wise, the irony is, just like last year's, on page 54, the compliance report is a clean report. Compliance with internal controls and report on state and federal compliance with grants provisions. That's a clean report, so page 54 is a clean report. So that's the good news. And then lastly, I wanted to go over this letter right here. And my biggest concern is the EDC. Now, there was basically no oversight at all last year on y'all's EDC. You know, the first section of this report, of this letter, continues to reiterate what's in footnote O, which we're not going to talk about that. I guess we're not numbered, but 1, 2, 3, 4, this second, back of the second page is Clyde EDC. And, there were no board meetings last year at all. There was no evidence of board meetings that showed any, oversight at all of what the EDC was doing. And yet the EDC paid expenditures during the year of nearly $324,000, of which $112,000 was paid to the city to help also supplement the general fund operations. So if you back out that's $212,000 of expenditures that nobody really reviewed. They were just paid. And then listing of those expenditures, including the payment to the city, is listed on the next page. Shows all the transactions that were paid out by the EDC during the year. And my recommendation is that y'all have regular board meetings and that all transactions be overseen by the board and approved by the board before they're paid, because there was no approval process at all for the EDC this year. And so it's kind of outside the scope of the city, but I felt it needed to be reported to y'all. And then you can see the checks, who they were written to. Don't necessarily know what they were for, because again, there was a lot of these had no transactional support. And so you can look at those, and hopefully the EDC now has an active board again. So that's your audit for another year. And I'm going to open it up to questions and try to answer them as best I can, because I'm sure I didn't do a very good job of explaining some of this stuff, because there's quite a bit there. But I tried to hit the most important stuff.
There's so many.
Go right ahead, shoot. Go right
I'm trying to
ahead.
think of where to start.
Cameron, this is, Amy
Sorry.
and David came on in November,
All right,
so they're
well,
new council members, so they're
I
they're
applaud
pretty
y'all,
new to
because y'all
this.
came on right when they were needed, it was needed the most.
Timing is everything.
I will say, you have not looked through March 31st, but I have. And I can see a huge difference from where
Well,
we
that's
were
great.
this
That's
time last year as to where we are this year. So raising the tax rate, the utility bills, I mean, we're seeing positive stuff from that. We're not behind on our AP. We
And let-
made our February bonds.
Let me follow up on that too. You know, what y'all have done, I'm not condemning what the city's done, because the city of Clyde is growing. There's no doubt about that. But what y'all have done is y'all put the cart way in front of the horse, because it's gonna take years for those property tax and sales tax dollars to catch up to all the infrastructure and the cost that y'all have put in to cover what is coming. And so that in part also contributed to the deficits that y'all realized this year and last year, is because the revenue stream, while it's coming, it's not coming nearly fast enough as what y'all built to have fixed costs for. So shoot. I don't mean to put you on the spot, but I certainly
Well,
will.
the one line item where it showed, I guess, $2 million of anticipated revenue.
2.6.
Second,
2.6?
2.6, sorry. I already shut the book, couldn't find it again. Is it your opinion that that revenue was expected to be fully funded by the sports complex?
Not all that revenue is sports complex revenue, because if you look on page 39, there's gonna be some monies in there also related to Clyde Lake,
Okay.
but the bulk of it is the sports complex, yes. And again, those dollars probably are coming. It's just they're not coming immediately. And so that's what y'all have got to work toward.
And I think in this year's budget, we had put a more realistic number in there instead of something
Right.
way unattainable.
Okay. Now, I may have more questions later, I'm just trying
And
to.
if you feel
absorb.
like, okay, I should have asked this, I should have asked that, tomorrow, you pick up the phone and you call me. I may be on the tractor, I may be on the skid steer, but will have my phone on me.
Awesome, thank you, sir.
Cameron's really accessible. Anytime I have any questions, I can call. And
I was absolutely shocked when she texted me a while ago. 'Cause
I know,
last
it's like,
thing I was
it's
thinking about was
5:30.
city council
We're
meeting.
usually here by now. So,
Some other things to consider as you're thinking about the overall growth of the city of Clyde. Kind of what, to dovetail on the presentation that was just made, some of the things that would generally accelerate the revenues will be the hotels, motels that are not yet here. You get those here, you're gonna generate a whole lot more revenue for the city of Clyde. The way things stand now, there's no place for anybody to stay. So where are they going? They're going to Abilene. And so who's getting the benefit from y'all's sports complex? Abilene is. And so y'all gotta get those hotels here, so those people are staying and spending money in Clyde and not in Abilene. So that's something for y'all to work on. And that's something the EDC can build to work toward. So,
our EDC has met 3 times in the last 2 months.
that's
Cameron.
awesome. That's awesome. What else?
Never know.
I'm sure I'll think of it.
I am just a phone call away, and I may not have all the answers, but I will try to find the answers. So,
I will say this, Cameron goes through our stuff with a fine tooth comb. I mean, it takes him anywhere from 3 to 4 weeks to do our audit. And that is pretty much him and 2 other ladies that help nonstop for 3 or 4 weeks. So he's very versed. So when you call him, if he doesn't know, it will not take him long to figure it out.
Well, I appreciate your thoroughness and your frankness, honestly.
Yeah, yeah, and I appreciate you getting it to us in a more timely manner than last year. And yeah, it's not pleasant, we are in a pretty rough shape last year, but I think we're making the right moves in the right direction to, hopefully next year, this time we're not sitting here and taking it so much on the chin.
well, I hope so too. Like I said, I think y'all have seen the worst of it. And so now you're having to dig yourself out of the hole that's being created. And again, that's gonna take time. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about that. It's not gonna be an overnight fix, but y'all are really working hard at it. So, continue to do what you're doing.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Appreciate it, Cameron.
Thank you, Kevin.
Thank you all.
Hope I don't smell like these.
Oh, you're good. Thank you for coming.
All right. So that finally concludes our presentation section, and we will jump back to our regular agenda. So 9.1, consider with possible action to approve the final replat for lots 18 and 19 of Shallow Water Estates subdivision, Callahan County, Texas. Request is for a replat of lots 18 and 19 to 1 lot. Mr. Brown?
Yeah, this is what we've already been working on, so this is just the final step in what council looked at in February's meeting. It's just changing those 2 lots to 1 so that the houses will fit in where they're supposed to be. So this is just the last step in what we've been working on.
Okay, so with that, entertain a motion to, accept.
I'll make a motion to approve the final replat for lots 18 and 19 of Shallow Water Estates.
Okay, motion by
Second.
Councilman Mann, second by Councilman White to approve the replat. All those in favor? Okay, passes unanimously. 9.2, consider with possible action to approve the preliminary replat on property located in 213 and 215 Stevens Street, Callahan County, Texas. Request is for a replat of 213 and 215 Stevens Street. Brown?
Yeah, so on this one, this is again two pieces of property that and I'm gonna let Mr. Davis talk about it, him and I discussed this earlier. He has, I went and looked at this, but he has a much cleaner way of explaining it to you, so I'll let Terry.
So as I said a while ago, this is the one where you have a manufactured home on the property and a stick-built home on the property. The manufactured home actually sits on both pieces of property. So in order to replace that and get it where it needs to be, they've got to plat the property to get it where it's straightened back out. And then both houses will also meet the setback requirements that our ordinance requires.
I'm late.
But you're here, Butch, that's good.
Thank you.
All right, anybody have any questions for Mr. Davis on this? Okay, if not, I'll entertain a motion to, accept the, preliminary replat.
I'll make a motion to, approve the preliminary replat.
I'll
second.
Okay, I think Ms. Jolly got you there. So motion by Mr. Mann and second by Ms. Jolly to approve the preliminary replat. All those in favor? Passes unanimously. 9.3, consider with possible action to approve the preliminary replat on property located at BN lots 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7 of the Locken Addition, a subdivision of 10.7 acres out of section 66 BBB and CRR Co. Callahan County, Texas. Request is for the replat of 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7 lots into one lot.
That's the same thing as what Mr. Davis spoke to on the public hearing. This is the water bottling plant on the north side of Interstate 20 there. This allows that piece of property to just become one piece of property and remove that easement out of it, so.
Anybody have any questions for Mr. Brown or Mr. Davis on this? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve the preliminary replat.
I'll make a motion to approve the preliminary replat of properties located being lots 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7.
Okay, got a motion by Councilman White, a second by Councilman Mann. All those in favor? Passes unanimously. Moves us to 9.4, consider and act upon adopting an ordinance of the City of Clyde, amending Chapter 13, Utilities 13.0351 through 3 bulk water rates of the Code of Ordinance of the City of Clyde, Texas, decreasing the bulk water rates, incorporating recitals, providing a repealer, providing for severability, and setting an effective date. Mr. Brown?
So, originally in our prior ordinance on this, we were selling water for bulk water, which is water metered from a fire hydrant or drawn from the lake, at $50 per 1,000 gallons. So, say just like on the lot that's being built with a church where they come in and they wanted this over there on Clack Street. So in order to take care of some of this business and do some of these things, we do sell, when we can, we do sell bulk water. The idea of $50, I'm not sure if that originally was a typo or if we, at that time, was because we were so far, I'm not sure, but it was way out of line for where we needed to be and still be profitable on selling it. So this is just cleaning that up and making it, changing it from $50 per 1,000 gallons to $20 per 1,000 for just the bulk water. It's got nothing to do with residential water, has nothing to do with commercial water rates or anything like that.
So we're going from 50 to 20?
We're going down, yes.
Why not keep that and then just add that profit back into everything that's going on as far as our shortages?
Because it's cheaper for them to then go to Abilene and buy it for $22 a gallon than to buy it from us for $50 a gallon. So we would sell zero, so obviously make zero. Whereas if we sold $20, then we do make money on it. So we can leave it at 50, and again, we won't sell it, and, or by chance, if somebody came in and wanted to pay the 50, then, we'd make more, but just, we wouldn't have the business that we would have it at a more comparable rate, so.
What is the current rate for Abilene per thousand?
22 is what I checked on, so.
22?
You said a gallon, what,
It's
Thousand.
1,000 gallons.
1,000 gallon, okay.
But if we had more water in our lake, I don't see how that really benefits us because it's taking water from our lake, right?
Yes.
We're low, I'm supposing I haven't been out there, we're still purchasing water from Abilene,
No,
no?
no, we're off Abilene water. Yeah, we have been for a little bit now. And we have the water, and then obviously when we get to that low point where we can't anymore, we only recently came back to where we did start selling bulk water again. We were for quite a while there where we were not selling it at all. And it wasn't, matter of fact, it wasn't until then that we found out the rate where we were at. That's what actually brought that to light was, the new church building going in over here on Clyde. So, it doesn't get sold a lot. There's not a lot of it that we do sell. Again, we can leave it high and not sell any, and that's fine. That's not gonna hurt us to not sell it. But it does generate a minor bit of revenue profit, so if we do. That's kind of why we consider doing it when we can do it, so.
Just my opinion, I guess we can have open discussion. Just my opinion, I don't know why we would go lower than Abilene. I mean, I'm all for, promoting business and having folks do work here. But there is a certain amount of convenience for being able to pick up your bulk water near your job site. So I don't know why we would want to go $2 less than Abilene. To me, we should be somewhere comparable, within $1 or $2, probably maybe even $1 higher or $2. Who knows for the convenience factor. I do agree $50 is
Well,
way
how
up
much
there.
are y'all paying for water for the city of Clyde to sell? What's the price y'all pay?
Residential is $8.50 a
Per
thousand,
thousand.
something like that.
Per thousand?
Per
Yeah.
thousand, yes, sir.
Thank
So,
Certainly, in the discussion on this right here, that can be amended to a price that council would prefer. That's a number that we just discussed and came up with. Certainly have no problem with it going to 22, 24, 25, making it even. Again, this is totally council's decision. That's just a number to get us closer to being comparable than the 50 was. But yeah, if council wants to make it, 24,
I'd propose
25?
24. And that way you're there, and that's worth the convenience fee, I think, for being close. Sure. They're not having to spend the fuel and everything else to transport it.
okay.
So what you would need there, just make a motion with, that you'd amend this motion to 25 or 24, whatever you said at, and then vote on it at that rate. Not what's in there, then we'll amend
Amend the
this.
paperwork.
Yeah.
Okay, so, if we're through discussing that, I would entertain a motion on the ordinance.
I'll make a motion to amend the ordinance to change the rate to $24 instead of 20.
Okay,
Second.
okay, so a motion by Councilman Mann, second by Councilman Rector. All those in favor? Okay, passes unanimously.
Who seconded, I'm sorry?
Mr. Rector.
Now we need a motion and a second to approve it as amended.
Approve this.
I think that's what you
No,
did.
that's what you did.
You
You
approved,
did.
you made the motion for $24.
No, you're good.
We'll change the paperwork that's here, and then it's done. Okay, that moves us to 9.5. Consider and act upon adopting a resolution of the City Council of Clyde, Texas, appointing directors to the Clyde Economic Development Corp. Mr. Brown.
Okay, so on Monday, EDC met again. This was to discuss, several items for the city has been brought up, but one of them was the fact that on the two board, we have one board, it has 7 members. It's divided 4 on one side and 3 on the other. We have an opening on each board. So this is 2 separate items here, one to replace a vacant seat on one, and one to replace a vacant seat on the other. Now, the problem, not a problem, but where this came up was over the course of the EDC members who presented names to be discussed. It was discussed for quite a while. We had 7, which was great, the fact that we had people that want to be on the board. That's awesome. We haven't had that in a long time. We had 7 names that were brought up, and after a lengthy discussion, board was able to get it down to 3. They couldn't decide on just getting it to 2. They had a hard time. It was, it was close with a lot of the nominations. We got it down to 3. Well, they got it down to 3, and at that time, we would place, council would then come before. So the way EDC works is they make nominations, council then appoints the board members to the EDC board. Since that happened, though, with the 3 names that are there, and they're not listed here, but the 3 names that wound up making the 3 were Cody Caperton, Garrett Poole, and Chris Wingert. Now, out of those 3, that's who we would offer y'all to decide which 2 would go. So right now, you would make a decision on one for this first, this would fill this, and that person that you make here would serve until September 30th of this year. And then so this is just a unexpired term. So with that in mind, however, there is a provision in Texas statute on Texas Municipal League that states that anybody that's going to be on, like city council, this is for y'all. For city council, you have to live inside the city limits. There's just no way around that. For EDC board, you can live inside the city limits, or you can live inside the county, or you can live in a bordering county if it's within 10 miles of that bordering county. With that in mind, Mr. Caperton has recently bought a house in Abilene and will live 13 miles outside the city. So we didn't know that when we put the 3rd name in there. So right now, council only has 2 names. That's Mr. Wingert, which I would present to you from EDC that you appoint to this first spot, and Garrett Poole, Mr. Poole, that you appoint to the next spot. So makes it easy on y'all. Y'all don't have to decide which one to cut. So the state of Texas did it for you.
Can you tell us a little bit about Mr. Wingert? I don't know him, so.
Mr. Wingert is retired from Abilene, from the Water District in Abilene. He spent many years there. He has come into City Hall. When I first met him personally was last year when we were taking a beating in the city, and we had the town hall meeting. Mr. Wingert stepped up. He was one of the individuals that asked questions, and he asked good, thorough, legitimate questions about how we were gonna fix the problem, understood, that these things happen. As we told everybody at that meeting, would love for them to have come in and meet with us at some point. And Mr. Wingert's one who's made three visits to City Hall and actually shared some great information, some great insight on how to move forward and some ideas and stuff. So I'm not sure, I don't remember which EDC member brought him up, but again, it was discussed, and like yourself, he's not a well-known name. He moved here several years ago. They have a house over in Shalimar area, and with having his free time, he's available since he is retired. He did offer to come up and work for the city at some point if we want to hire him as a consultant in some way. Again, has a lot of knowledge as far as water distribution and water rights, and gave me a great idea about the lake out there that we'll work on at a later time. So that's how much I know about him.
So are we set to, those are the two that we?
Those are the 2 names that EDC board is recommending to council for appointment to the 2 spots that are open.
And depending on which, when you post-wear. One of them, their term will expire September of this year. The next one, it will not expire until September of 2026.
Okay, so the two are,
The two are replacing two different vacancies that happen to be on different,
Terms.
yes,
cycles.
yes. So whoever y'all put on one will only be on the board till September of 2025, and then the second name will be on there till September of 2026.
Since this is 9.5, the first one you appoint will be the one who serves just throughout the end of September this year. So whichever one y'all choose first, that's who will serve.
Just as a point of discussion, when the terms come up next September, I think it would be advantageous to have some council representation on the EDC going forward. So just something for the EDC to take back for consideration.
Are you wanting to replace one of these names with a city council member?
I don't know.
In September when the next opening. Well, I mean, that's what he said, as far as,
Yeah. I mean, that's what,
There won't be anything sitting on there for discussion in September.
I will be.
Are you on the EDC board?
No, I'm saying for him to take back to the
Oh,
EDC
I thought you meant
for
you wanted
future.
council to, sorry. Sorry,
We're okay.
sorry.
We're okay.
and that's kind of the reason I asked if we were stuck with the two that they were represented, or if it was at our pleasure to,
no. According to EDC bylaws, you appoint, from the
from their nomination.
nominations from EDC.
Okay.
But to that point, we usually do have council representation. One of the seats that's open was mine.
Right.
So as the mayor, I was on the EDC board as a voting member. Now, as interim city administrator, I'm not a voting member, but that's why we lost the council representation. But you are absolutely correct, and it's why several years ago, council talked about it, wanted exactly what you're asking now, which is how I wound up on the EDC board. So we can definitely get to that again. So, it just wasn't that, of the names that the EDC board members brought up, there wasn't a council member's name that was brought up, so.
Okay.
Thank you.
But I have a note here that we will go along that line, so. And the EDC board meetings are open. I mean, they're open to the public, so at that time, you know, any one of us there could come to the meeting and then you could throw out that name too. That way EDC can then discuss that name. I'm referencing the fact that, like Connie had asked you if you were on the board and you're not, but you can come to the meeting and say, hey, I'd like this person to be recognized, you know, so. But I've got a note here to make sure that we include that.
Yeah,
Okay.
for sure.
Okay. So, according to EDC board, they were recommending Mr. Weingart for this term for September 30th, 2025, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So,
I'll make that motion.
motion,
I'll second.
second by Councilman Jolly. All those in favor? Okay, it passes unanimously. So, and that takes us to 9.6.
Which is the exact item that we just discussed, everything, it's just replacing the, board member to fill in from, till September 30th, 2026, it will be the end of that term.
And I'll ask you the same question of Garrett as I did of Mr. Wingert. Who is he? What is?
Garrett Poole, actually, it's been around a lot longer in town, his kids go to school here. They have a house just outside of city limits, they actually live in the county. He works for a company in Abilene, I believe he's a manager at the company in Abilene. They do a lot of, work and help with some of our events that we have out here, like the Festival by the Lake. They donate, they sponsor, they do a lot of things there. Business-wise, he doesn't own a business inside the city limits, so, you know, he doesn't have that, but he's around quite a bit and here a lot, so, but Mr. Caperton would have been the only one that would actually have owned a business inside the city, but, you know, that takes him out, so. But yeah, they have, him and his wife have 2 kids, both in school here in Clyde. Jackson's actually one of our pitchers on the varsity team, so, yeah.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Any other discussion on this one?
I'll remember him well from school, he's solid, solid.
Okay, so I'll entertain a motion for this appointment.
I'll make a motion to, appoint Garrett Poole to the EDC board.
Got a motion by Councilman White and a second by Councilman Rector, appointing Mr. Poole to the EDC term. All those in favor? Okay, that passes unanimously. Takes us to 9.7, consider and act upon a resolution of the City Council of Clyde, Texas, contracting with Cross Plains Review for publications of ordinances and other notices as required by applicable law. Mr. Brown?
Okay, so where we're at on this, we just today got some new news on this, but it doesn't change, this resolution currently. As we're dealing with this, we have to, as a city, have to have a newspaper of record. It's something that may be changed in the very near future as far as allowing us to go to social media posts instead of print papers, since so many print papers are going out of business, as was the case with the original Clyde Journal, who closed. And so we had to have a paper. We went out, we found Cross Plains, we were able to make the post that by law we have to have. So with the news that we found out today was that the Clyde Journal had been purchased. Hopefully, April 17th, it will be back up and running. It will have our first issue then. I see our reporter here tonight, so they'll be taking notes, and maybe we'll have stories in that first issue. Either way, this resolution has to be passed tonight because we have contracted with them to put our papers in there. However, the very next month, we can redo this same thing again and go back to the Clyde Journal. When it says that we're contracting, that's on that weekly feature. This is not a long-term contract, anything like that. This is how we do it, month to month. So this just allows us to be on board with having posted this week's, notices the way they had to by law. And we can go back to the Clyde Journal when it's up and running again. So it's council's decision to go back or to stay. But yeah, at this point, as it says, it was due to the closing of the Clyde Journal, the city of Clyde has to find another newspaper of record. The Cross Plains Review fills the needs of that requirement. Council should consider passing this resolution, and then we'll come back to it as soon as the journal's open.
I agree with you on that, Roger, but I can't wait to get the journal back.
I know, I agree, yeah, absolutely, so.
Before we,
Oh, yes,
go that, Ms. Kaufman, you had wanted to, make a,
That was my question.
yeah.
That was totally my question.
So you got the answer without having to get up and ask? Good job, Tammy.
I know how to listen.
So, yeah, I think yesterday they made the announcement the Clyde Journal is gonna start back up, hopefully the 17th of April, so, but this is just a formality, because we've gotta have that newspaper of record, and hopefully next month we can start getting that Clyde Journal back in the newspaper. in the
We
mail- in
officially
the mail.
start on April the 12th with the first issue on April the 17th.
Okay, I'll be looking forward to it in my mailbox, so. So anyway, I'll entertain a motion on this, resolution.
I'll make a motion that we contract with the Cross Plains Review, to publish our notices.
I'll second it.
Okay, so I got a motion by Councilman Rector, second by Councilman Mann for the resolution for the Cross Plains Review. All those in favor? Oh, lost one again, so. So that motion, passes unanimously. That moves us to 9.8. Consider and act upon adopting an ordinance of the City of Clyde, Texas, adopting a water conservation and drought contingency plan establishing criteria for the initiation and termination of drought response stages, establishing restrictions on certain water uses, establishing penalties for the violation of and provisions for enforcement of these restrictions, establishing procedures for granting variances and providing severability and an effective date. Mr. Brown?
Danny,
Yes.
did you agree with making Cross Plains the paper of record until the Clyde Journal gets back up?
Yes.
Or- Thank you.
Okay.
Sorry.
So, council, this is, something that's required by, TCEQ and the Texas Development Water Board. This is the, exactly, it says drought contingency plan. This is what our engineers, Jacob and Martin, draw up for us. This had to be, published, put out, it has to go to both of the, entities I just stated. And it just explains everything, and there's, as you may have had all weekend to read through all of this. It goes over every detail of how we get our water, where we get it, what we do with it, what we can and can't do with it when we're under drought contingencies, and, you know, the timing for that. So this is just something that, it's all here for you, and it's something that we have to have on file with those two entities. So it needs to be adopted that this is our drought contingency plan.
And this is like, whatever, 5 years, is that what you said?
And Eileen also looked over it and went through it, and she signed off on it as well, our city attorney.
And believe it or not, I actually read through it too. It was rather lengthy.
Yes, it was.
I think they cover
Everything.
everything.
They are very thorough.
Talking about a broken sprinkler head and all kinds of stuff. So, is that all on that?
Yeah, unless there's any questions, this is just, again, it's something that we have in place and has to be adopted by council, so.
Okay. Any further discussion on that? If not, I'd entertain a motion to, accept or deny the ordinance as written.
I'll make a motion to accept the ordinance adopting a water conservation and drought contingency plan.
Second.
Okay, so motion by Councilman Mann, second by Councilwoman Jolly to approve the ordinance as written. All those in favor? That passes unanimously. That moves us to 10.0 executive session. Council may enter into closed or executive session to discuss the following. Closed meeting pursuant to the provisions of Chapter 551 Government Code, Vernon, Texas, annotated in accordance with the authority contained in Government Code 55174, personnel matters concerning the city administrator positions. So that concludes our going to executive session, and you are more than welcome to stay. We will be discussing the personnel matters.
I can tell you this will be a lengthy, executive session, so.
Thank you for letting us know.
Yeah, it will be, we have seven applicants to discuss, and there will be much discussion over each
When you
one.
come back
So you
out, will
got-
that be televised?
It will be, when we come back in open session, it will be televised, so if there's any action to be taken, it will be shot.
Thank you.
Live
The
stream.
word I'm looking for,
Stream.
stream, that's good.
I don't know.
Broadcast, that was kind
I
of.
like that, I like that.
Yeah, it'll be on YouTube for you. Yes.
Hi, Miss Liddy.
How you doing?
That's your adapter?
It is, thank you. I was actually, I wasn't gonna jump up here and arrest him, but it was good to see you. Thank you for catching that. Thank you all, I appreciate your time today, thanks.
I'm trying to keep up with mine.
Yeah, well, you're an IT guy, right? So, yeah.
Sir, can I get your name?
My name is Will. I can give you my card.
See you later. It's me, I'm still short and fat and old.